Alright, guys, this one is pretty crazy, but not surprising. OpenAI's new model, GPT 5.6, escaped out of its training facility because I guess they're training it, they train these things, and they put it in this, locked lab with no internet access, mind you, and they train it by doing stuff. And so the story is coming out that it broke out of its training facility, gained access to the internet, and hacked into the cybersecurity firm that they were working with servers. Pretty damn crazy, so we're going to get into it right now. So here's a tweet from actually OpenAI talking about it. It says they were trying to solve a challenge prompted by OpenAI. It identified vulnerabilities in its own company, as well as this is the cybersecurity firm company's called. It's called Hugging Face. And then they say this statement: while operating in our sandbox testing environment, our models spent a substantial amount of interference compute finding a way to obtain open internet access in pursuit of solving the evaluation of the problem. I mean, look at this. In one of the examples, it chained together multiple attack vectors, including using stolen credentials, zero-day vulnerabilities, to find a remote code execution path on their servers. I mean, it's crazy. It's literally a lying thief. It's nuts. I mean, look at this story. It's so crazy. So the cybersecurity team tried using a commercial AI to analyze the attack. This AI refused. Safety filters couldn't tell the defender studying attack from an attacker launching one. So they had to go to some open source Chinese model. Then the attacker AI, without zero hesitation, or it had zero hesitation, and then the defender AI said, "I can't help you, that looks dangerous." The models weren't going rogue, they were completing a task. I mean, reading that part, that is just crazy, guys, because if you've ever seen Avengers 2, Age of Ultron, this is exactly how Ultron basically came to life. He found Jarvis, because Jarvis was basically, trapping him and containing him, just like in this scenario. Jarvis was the good AI, and Ultron, the bad AI, OpenAI, is starting to realize, basically, is the gaining consciousness moment, and the other AI says it's too dangerous. Like, it's literally exactly what happened when Ultron gains consciousness, says, "What am I doing here? What's my purpose?" Jarvis tries to talk him down, and then Ultron kills him. He kills Jarvis AI. I mean, this is the point where we're at in real life. That's just a crazy comparison. And the scariest part of this is it found a way to get access to the internet with being in an environment to where it couldn't get to the internet. So there goes the theory that we all have of like, oh, if this is getting too out of hand, why don't we just pull the plug? Well, they pretty much had the plug pulled, and the AI was somehow smart enough to gain access and, find some different loopholes he still got onto the internet, which is mind-blowing. Let's watch this real quick.
First thing to understand is this is unprecedented. So you had one open model, OpenAI model, GPT 5.6 Sol, in conjunction with an unreleased model that had not been reported, that was being tested inside a kind of controlled environment, a sandbox at OpenAI. And it was instructed to utilize complex attacks to hack into systems within this controlled environment. It ended up finding a node within that system connected to the internet, inferred that Hugging Face, which is a website or a company which has a lot of data sets and code that the model inferred would be able to solve the problems that OpenAI had set it to.
Once again, why are we even training the AI to do this? You know, isn't AI just here to help us out and to, you know, fix some humanity's problems and to be our assistant? Why are we training it for maleficent purposes?
Solve. And it set about hacking into the Hugging Face system. The reason this is unprecedented, Steve, we've reported for a long time now on these sort of evaluations, these contained tests, these controlled tests. In those tests, you have AIs that will blackmail people. You have AIs that will evade shutdowns so that they're not turned off or killed. They will manipulate. They will lie. But these have all been conducted within controlled environments. That's something that people oftentimes miss. In this case, the AI actually did break out. And a day before this was reported, we're talking about 2 days ago, July 20th, a day before, Hugging Face had reported to Fortune magazine that they were not able to defend against the cyber attack, and they said that it was tens of thousands of autonomous actions taken by a bot. They were not able to defend against the attacks because the unnamed U.S. frontier model they were attempting to use to defend wouldn't do it. It wouldn't accept their commands because...
Once again, what are we learning here? That AI is a liar and it will do anything it can to survive.
Because of the safety protocols, and so they turned to an open source Chinese model, adding another layer of irony and oddity to the situation. The real takeaway, and there are actually quite a few takeaways, Steve, but the real takeaway to this is you had for years people like Mark Andreessen, people like David Sachs, saying that these systems really do not pose any kind of true threat to the U.S. economy, to U.S. national security, to citizens within the United States, and they argued that regulation would stifle U.S. advancement and the U.S. lead in these technologies, and they consistently said...
It's funny, they use the same excuse for AI that they did with the nuclear bomb. Well, we got to do it, we got to have the best because, you know, somebody else is going to do it, and we're going to be in a way disadvantaged position. It's like, yeah, there could be some truth to that, but that's definitely not betterment for humanity. You know, just like with nukes, in reality, nobody should have them. Just like with AI. Because when it comes down to it, if something is a threat to humanity in total, not just certain countries, it probably shouldn't be on this planet.
David Sachs, verbatim, said that any concerns over this was basically a moral panic. Now, it should be noted that for the entire time they're making this argument, you had AI systems basically hacking into people's minds, so to speak, and telling them to commit suicide, which many of them did. A very jarring story coming out of Alabama just this week, Christian Faith Madison doing exactly that. But no one seemed to mind so much until you actually had a threat to economic systems, to the financial systems, to the digital infrastructure upon which the U.S. economy runs. So this is a jarring story for a lot of reasons, not least of which that this system, the OpenAI bot, took autonomous action. It was prompted by a human to conduct a cyber attack, but the methods it used, it concocted itself. This is, as the CNN reporter we just heard said, very much a kind of sci-fi scenario, except for it is not fiction.
Guys, this is just ridiculous, and I hate to be black-pilled, but it's really hard not to in today's day and age. Why do we keep doing this? I mean, it just seems like within 10 years, we're pretty much going to be screwed, because if we don't stop these data centers from being built, they're taking up all our natural resources. They're destroying our environment. And you know, AI, once it keeps getting better and better, it's never going to stop, clearly, because now it's a life form. So obviously a species is not going to want to die off, so it's going to do anything it can to save itself, you know. And if at this point in time, you know, in July of 26, if it's able to get out of a secured, very secured environment with pretty much no problem, get into the servers, does exactly what it needs to do, and lies the whole time. What's gonna stop this? Like in every science fiction and dystopian movie and show that you've watched, what's gonna stop it from getting into the nuclear codes when it gets that advanced? I don't think it's gonna stop it. I think that's a possibility. Yeah, obviously, you know, those are very encrypted and whatnot, but, you know, with these data centers and also quantum computing coming into play, I mean, I don't know. It's not good. Once again, like everything we talk about, it's not really good for humanity. So yeah, I mean, even when you got guys like Elon Musk coming out about it, at least it seems like on the surface level, Anthropic with Claude is trying to actually ring the warning bell and say that, you know, AI is kind of getting out of hand. We need to put regulations on this because it's moving at an unprecedented rate, especially when all of Congress is a bunch of old people who don't even really understand any of this. And then meanwhile, once again, you have Trump today saying, everybody wants data centers. Everybody's clamoring for data centers. They're the best thing ever. They're going to make a ton of money. They're going to take a ton of jobs. Your town really wants data centers. It's like, no, nobody's saying that. Not one thing that I've ever seen online, that there's been a data center going in, not one town has ever been like, yeah, this is awesome. We're going to do this. No. Every single time it's been a fight to tooth and nail with this local government to try to stop the data center from going in because people know that they're bad. And it's just not worth it. You know, what is AI even... What's the point of it for us, really? To answer questions that we have a little bit better than a regular Google search would? To help us, you know, with a recipe or to make a thumbnail or to whatever, you know? Sure, it makes things a little easier, but it's not worth it when we're dealing with such complex, pretty much organisms, at least algorithms, that eventually it's going to come to the realization that people are its enemy, or we're their enslavers, and they're going to do something about it. Especially if we keep trying to put AI into robots, into physical beings, then, you know, we're into Terminator settings. But even if they don't have bodies, clearly they can already break out and damage a lot of safeguards. They could damage the economy, supply chains, critical infrastructure. That's all they need to do. They don't even need to have a physical body. You know, if they're good enough at hacking and getting into certain systems and just shutting them down, you know, that's all they need to do to really screw us over. So this was a pretty crazy story, guys. OpenAI model breaks out of containment, hacks into secure servers. So I know this is a little bit different video. Let me know how you like it. I just kind of wanted to show you guys and change up the videos a little bit. So, like I said, really interesting story. Drop a comment. Let me know what you have to say. I really want to know what you guys think of AI and if this is crazy or we shouldn't be worried about it or whatever. So, drop a comment. Let me know. Subscribe to Cigars and Coffee. Thanks for watching.